Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Crypto Dark Pod, presented by Blockchange Solidarity Media. We're a team of crypto sleuths ready to dive into these thick crypto weeds. We are not afraid to expose the darkness and deceptions that run rampant in crypto. From government and corporate tyranny to the scammy scammers and celebrity influencers, the Crypto Dark Pod team is more than ready to explore all the systematic and psychological tactics, the tricks and misdirection deployed on this new blockchain technology that makes prey of everyday people on the regular. We must be informed and vigilant. Together, we can learn to defend ourselves from these scamming hijackers, which is why we at the Crypto Dark Pod invite you to join us on our exploration into the dark sides of the blockchain. Go get your flashlight.
Okay, welcome to the Crypto Dark Pod, episode 2 here, and we're joined this week by Tom Gillespie, Crypto Scamdemic, from Crypto Scamdemic, and we have our two co-hosts for this. We have Pudding Buckcoins again, and we're joined by Luke, who we mentioned on the first episode last week. Couldn't join us, but Luke, you're joining us this week. How you going, buddy? Where are you at in the world?
I'm doing good, mate. I'm in Sydney, Australia. I've gotten over my barley belly and I'm ready to go.
Yeah. For folks listening who've been following Blockchain Solidarity Pod, and we did those like 3 or 4 anti-crypto sort of episodes. 3 of them. Luke joined us for the FTX one. You'll remember him from that. And since Christmas, Luke's been off with all numerous illnesses from Bali and. Oh, I don't know why I'm laughing, but it's just so much. But
cheers, Alex.
Yeah, sure. I didn't mean it. It's been a dark time for Luke, so we're so happy he's got better and he's back with us. So thanks for joining in, Luke. Good to have you back, bud. Pudding, how's it going, man?
Yeah, life's good. I don't have Bali belly, so that's a bonus. And here in Guatemala, we are one with our parasites as well. So I'm good at this point.
Good at this point. Good to hear. And Tom, thanks for joining us, man. We've wanted to have you on for a while. We've watched your doco quite a while ago when you sent it to us. It's wonderful. We'll get into that. But first of all, where are you at in the world, buddy? And how's it going?
Yeah, thanks for having us, fellas. I'm currently in Europe, and the weather's absolutely shit here. But people are nice. The food's bloody great. So it's going well. I prefer this part of the world in the summer, of course, the European summer. Missing Aussie a little bit now, but it's a good day.
Good to hear. I'm actually, for everyone listening, I've been in Latin America for a while, and I just got back to London this week, and I'm hating the weather, Tom. I don't know what you're on about. You're loving the weather in Europe. It's freezing in London. I am frozen, and I'm not liking it at all. So I'm gonna look to get my flight out of this place pretty soon again. But there you go. Before we start, I just wanted to before I jumped on this episode, I was just looking at the news. Have you guys seen the stuff that's going on in the news about what possibly is flying through our skies? UFOs. Have you seen this? What's behind that?
You're talking about Russian balloons, huh? Is that what you're getting at?
What is it? What was something about Chinese balloons, man? Chinese balloons. Yeah, Tom, you're the taco guy.
Mate,
you're the reporter.
Look, they might be Chinese balloons, but they were designed in Australia and constructed in California. Everybody knows how the high-tech supply chain these days, so let's not muck about.
That does make sense because it's a spy balloon that's visible to the naked eye, so that does sound like something Australia would create.
Precisely, mate. We don't muck about.
So everyone's settled that it's a balloon. It's not the aliens haven't come and visited us in this dark period of the world.
No. It's an international collective effort. spying, but it's backfired quite badly because some fucker spotted it from the ground. So.
Yeah, exactly. I saw the video of that. Some guy just pointing at the sky and going, "There's the Chinese balloon there." It's just ridiculous. Anyway, let's crack on. So yeah, folks listening, Tom is the Crypto Scamdemic guy. You'll follow him on Twitter. We'll put his links in the show description. But he's been in this kind of world. I'll let Tom. Tom. I'll ask you to do this, but briefly, like, he's been around this game for a while, and he's been looking into the world of crypto and bringing out some documentaries, some really interesting documentaries on the crypto space and is it scammy and all the rest of it. And his most recent one was the HEX documentary, and it's lit up the crypto world in a sense. And it's really interesting looking at HEX. I don't know if everyone's heard of HEX. I hadn't heard of HEX before the documentary. Luke and Pudding, you both have, but Tom, I'll let you describe it a bit more. Tell the audience about sort of your path. What were you doing? How did you get into this world of crypto scandemic kind of stuff, and what's been your journey? What's been your docos up until this point?
Yeah, thanks again for having me on, fellas. I got tied up in crypto first time through a trip to Bali. Funny enough, I was having a piranha foot bath, and this little chap there, he basically said, "Look, we only accept Bitcoin as payment." This was 2016, 17 or something, and I said to the guy, I said, "Fuck off, mate. What are you on about Bitcoin?" Anyway, after some haggling, I managed to get him to take the Aussie dollar at least. So, but after that, I became more and more intrigued by this crypto world. And shortly after that trip, when I got back to Aussie, my brother Timmy came up to me and he said, "Listen, there's this fella called Bitman360, right? And he's invented this buttercup device for a scooter. You know, the scooters that the kids take down the skate park, right?
Mm.
And this little device clips onto the scooter, and when the kids go riding around the park, they earn something called scooter coin." And I said, "Send me over the details. Let me have a look." So I did that. I had a look-see, and I thought, blimey, this is actually a pretty damn good invention. This is probably better than Bitcoin. And obviously this was 2016 at the time, so I didn't really have a good understanding of the landscape. But it seemed very innovative for a kid to be able to earn, a cryptocurrency by riding the scooter. So
yeah, it seems interesting.
So I was like, okay, let's. I loaned my brother a little bit of money, and he gave it to his kid to give to Bitman360 to buy off all this scooter coin, investment, and that backfired wildly, as you can imagine. And yeah, it ended up basically going tits up and put me on a path towards documentary, movie, film, miniseries productions, which is what arrived to me at the Fakefluencer, actually, which was my first documentary.
Fakefluencer. Okay, so the fact that you sort of whittled about in this scooter coin and it went tiddly widdly woo woos was your sort of eureka moment to go, wait a minute, what's this all about? What's this world all about? And that set you on. Was that it?
Well, I was looking for an application that wasn't just speculative, right? Where people sort of pass money between one another, trading and what have you. So this Buttercup device really made me think, okay, wow, you can actually program some sort of deliverance of value through an activity that's already occurring, with love, in fact, because these kids love riding their scooters. I don't know if you've been to any of the skate parks around where you live, but they're fucking everywhere, scooter kids.
Oh yeah, they're everywhere. Yeah, and that just reminds me of another crypto, which I don't know how much I can say about it, but Wheelcoin. I think it's like every time you move, you generate their cryptos.
Oh,
it's almost
yeah.
like the Fitbit of crypto. I don't know if you've heard of that.
There's heaps of them around nowadays. I've been using something called Sweatcoin recently, and basically you just walk about the place and you earn something called Sweatcoin, and yeah, I don't know.
I was going to say, what's that? The more you stink, the more cryptos you get, or something.
No, well,
So the more
it's a very nice
we'd all
user
be wealthy as
interface,
hell.
at least.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so okay, I see. And
so I was looking, as an investor previously, in the traditional markets, I was looking at some, the edge, and I thought it was the Buttercup device, but it turned out to be a fucking red herring. It was bullshit. The whole thing was hence the name, the fake influencer. Bitman 360 is the fake influencer, basically. However,
Right.
however, he did put me onto the HEX investigation, which was, I'm forever grateful to Bitman 360 for doing that, because that really opened my eyes to the crypto world.
So yeah, it went well with the fake influencer. Tell us a bit about the response. How did the world respond to it, and how did that sort of incentivize you to move on to the next one then?
Well, the world didn't really respond. However, thanks to Bitman 360, the Hexicans made a vote on the website. So I put a vote up, and it was between investigating something called BitNation or HEX, basically. Now, the OGs in the room will recognise BitNation, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I don't, but guys, do you know that?
I've heard it.
Bit-
I don't know it.
Doesn't ring a bell for me.
That
There you
was
go. Not so OG.
that was
Yeah,
that
tell us.
that was that Susan Templehoff lady, and she disappeared down to Argentina or something. Anyway, it looks to be like it turned into a rug, but I never investigated it, so I don't know what the fuck happened there. But the Hexicans went and won that vote because they just piled in and voted hard, whereas the BitNation people decided to use a bot, and I just had to obviously exclude all the bot votes, and that's what won the investigation into Hex, basically. So that the actual Hexicans wanted it, and
That's
they got it.
interesting. Yeah, that you put it out there for a public vote or for a vote, and that's pretty innovative and cool. Guys, Luke and Pudding, did you? As I said at the top there, I hadn't heard about Hex before encountering Tom and his doco. Like, well, what's your knowledge before we dive into it? What do you guys know about Hex? What's your take, Luke? You go first. Like, what do you know about this Hex thing?
Yeah, I've been looking at Hex for a while. It's one of those yield coins that promises unrealistic returns. So it's always been on my radar. It's got a unique origin where he sort of gives it out. It's not sold like a normal coin. He gives it out to any Bitcoin holder. It's Yeah, and the community is the main thing. It's for me that stands out because I mean, there's a lot of coins like it, a lot of scams, in my opinion, like it, but the community really makes this one a little bit more interesting because they're very big and passionate.
Yeah, that definitely comes across in the doco. Pudding, what did you know about Hex?
Yeah, I vaguely remember hearing about it a handful of years ago in the context of like this coin keeps doing well, but it's probably a scam. And I kind of honestly, when I first heard about Hex was when I was already on my journey to get out of shit coins. Like, so I was just like, it was just like, I was like, oh, there's another shit coin that I don't need to know too much about, So it was like sort of in the periphery of what I was seeing, but. Now I've looked into it more since I watched the documentary more, and I would, funnily enough, I would almost say like because of the community, probably it almost stands a chance. Like maybe it's not gonna like cave and be a rug pull just because there's just so many people that are so crazy about it.
So that's interesting, and question for Tom, because this is a podcast that looks into the dark side of crypto scams, frauds, and dystopia. So the folks listening right now are probably wondering, you guys like talking about Hex because it's a scam, or and it's difficult, isn't it? Because a lot of people will say it is, and a lot of people may not say it is. Tom, without jumping straight to your conclusion, because we'll come to that at the end, let's start at the beginning. What was it that even got Hex on your radar? Were you intrigued that people were saying it was or it wasn't, and you wanted to dive in to see for yourself, or what drove you for Hex to come onto your agenda, your across your table, if you like, and yeah, why'd you go for this one?
So I basically, as part of my investigation into Bitman 360, came across one Richard Hart, and I interviewed with him. That interview's up on the Fake Influencer YouTube channel, by the way. It's a 2-part interview, and he was an
Yeah.
absolute authority on the crypto scamdemic, or so he thought, or presented it himself as such. And the reason being was because he arguably is the sort of most hated fella in crypto, and he's won the he's won the
Arguably so.
crypto
That's a big
scammy.
statement to make.
Yeah, I mean,
Wow.
if you check out the crypto scammy awards
Yeah.
that have been going on for the past few years, he's always being nominated and often winning. So there is a
Right.
large portion of the wider crypto community that believe that Hex is a scam. And without
Right.
drawing conclusions, because I need people to obviously go and watch the doco till the end, I have come away realizing that whatever goes on in Hex, whatever formulas or alchemy Richard has derived for this smart contract, he's not certainly not alone. Okay, so there's plenty of others doing
Right.
exactly the same thing. The only difference here, of course, is that Richard has a lot more history attached to his character. And you can trace that back all the way to even before Hex was launched, right?
Right, that's interesting. Let's pull on that thread a bit, and then we'll go through the documentary a little bit. But just wanted to pull on that thread right now. And guys, jump in if you want, as if you hear anything you want to pull a thread on. But I'll pull on that one. So you're saying then that Hex is not so different in its smart contract, sort of technical wizardry or whatever. It's not so different from many others, but it is a scam in the minds of the wider crypto community, because of Richard Hart himself. He's disliked, or he's seen as scammy, or is that what you're
The
saying?
man has a reputation, and he also launched Hex in a manner that would obviously rub any Bitcoiner up the wrong way, because it was initially called Bitcoin Hex when he airdropped it to anybody that would post their Bitcoin address into his website, right? And
Right.
I think a lot of Bitcoiners or people that held Bitcoin did that. And those are the guys that you see now that parade themselves around on live streams, Hexicans, so-called whales, large bag holders of Hex. Those probably are those, that's those guys. And then the other guys who obviously have put their Bitcoin address into that website back then and are holding large bags but don't want to make it public. So essentially, it's a bit of a mix of sort of insulting marketing strategy, I guess, on Rich's part by hijacking the brand, the Bitcoin brand initially, and then also the way that he circulated through the airdrop was questionable as well. I don't know if you guys know how he did that, but again, I don't want to give too much away right now. So. And also, this is definitely not fucking investment advice, okay?
Yeah, none of this is investment advising. And yeah, Pudding and Luke, I mean, you guys have been in crypto longer than I have. As far as I know, Pudding, you're not a Bitcoin maximalist, but you're pro Bitcoin like myself. Luke, I don't know what your view is on Bitcoin, but what do you guys think? What is your sort of views on Richard Hart vis-a-vis Hex vis-a-vis Richard Hart? If you have an opinion, what do you think,
Sure.
Luke? Luke, go first. Yeah, then we'll come to you, Pudding.
Yeah. Richard's a really dodgy character. Before Hex, he was the Viagra emails dude. So he doesn't have he doesn't have a great story before his crypto dalliances.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Let's take a sidetrack quickly into that, because that's a clippable moment if I've ever heard one. Viagra emails, dude. Like what's that about?
Yeah. So well before crypto was even a thing, Richard Hart was known as the Spam King, and if he ever got an email promising a hard dick or stupid things like that, it was probably from him, like in the early 2000s. And he made a shit ton of money doing that. And he even had a course at one point where he would show other people how to make a lot of money doing spam shit. So that's the sort of
Wow.
person he is.
Interesting.
You know, he got in a bit of trouble for that, but yeah, I think a slap on the wrist type deal. But yeah, that's where he comes from. So for me, like, and for a lot of people, that right there is enough to say, no, I'm not going to get involved in this at all.
Tom, did you know about that? This hard dick emails?
I did, mate. I did, and it's
Ah.
probably largely the reason why he bought the most expensive fucking rock on Earth, right? Late last year. But regardless, what I was
Right.
trying to avoid was putting too much limelight on Richard himself, because he fucking loves that stuff, right? And you'll see this reflected in the miniseries that I, you know, I chose to put the limelight on the community, because I think the Hexicans are where the actual real value lies. Without the so-called community of any cryptocurrency, you don't have shit, right? You can have a charismatic leader who parades himself around saying how great his token is, but without the community, you've got fuck all, right? And what's interesting about the Hexican community is that they're anti-trading, right? And everybody knows most people are in crypto for the gains, which means trading. So this made this community extremely interesting, kind of unique in that regard. And that's why that's why I called it Hexicans and the time value of money, because the time value of money is the value proposition, and the Hexicans are what give that value proposition any value, in my opinion. Richard is just like he says himself, he's a cheerleader. He's the chief cheerleader, right?
Right. Well, let's dive into that a little bit, because you know, and feel free to, you know, sort of reveal as much as you want about the doco or not. But I think, like, for anyone listening, I think, like, maybe two objectives here for this podcast is to sort of unravel or unthread the sort of dynamic themes, questions around Hex. Is it a scam? Is it not? What are the pros and cons against that argument? What is how much is it about Richard Hart? How much is it about the smart contract of the actual coin? And what does the community play? And you know, what are the debates here? So, and then the second theme is, you know, sort of, which, you know, Tom, you can talk about too, which we're passionate about on this pod, is, you know, the setting themes of decentralization and how they're possibly co-opted in any sort of part of the crypto sphere against actual decentralization. So let's talk a
Yeah,
little
and
bit,
if I might add
not to,
another theme there, if that's okay.
yeah,
I
sure.
Yeah, I'd like to discuss my personal use or application of the tool set that has been made available by this blockchain technology, but we can leave that towards the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Is that your collective? Is that?
That's my studio collective. Yeah, it's how I'm going to proceed with my investigations going forward, because I can't do it as I've done it previously forever.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to get that. You know, as the third sort of piece, like, what's next? What are you using? What can people expect next?
Yeah, it's kind of ironic that I've almost decentralized my production process in the in the process of investigating decentralization itself. I love that. I actually
Yeah,
really like that.
yeah,
Somebody should make a documentary about me, actually.
yeah. And I'm a part of that. I'm sort of really diving into that. So let's get that, because that's important. What our sort of audience will want to know. You know, how can they get involved if they, you know, because they'll be so interested in this kind of work. Pudding, jump in here, because you've watched the documentary a couple of times now. Like, well, what's your understanding of the smart contract? On what, if anything, could people say about the fact that it's centralized or decentralized, or a scam or not a scam? What's your understanding of that?
Right. So, you know, I'll just quick backtrack a little bit and say what I see as interesting is that Richard Hart is his own perfect low-hanging fruit. It's almost like he saw himself as the low-hanging fruit and he manipulated it perfectly. So finding out he's the Viagra king is not really such a shock, because he really seems great at manipulating the information around him and the Hexicans in general. So I just feel like he's like the perfect figurehead. He's like shock value at, like he's like the Donald Trump of crypto. So it kind of just works perfect for rallying people around. And as far as like when you get into the actual realities of what Hex does, I mean, I kind of think the documentary brought that up quite a lot. Like it's not really doing anything that terribly special. Like potentially the only really, really strong aspect of Hex is this really vital community that are willing to sort of attack anybody that's attacking them.
Right. For folks listening, I guess maybe let me narrow in on it a little bit. Like, folks listening might go, okay, so you have a central figure who sort of promotes it, Trump-like figure, if you like, or whatever, like a guy who's does all the sort of the front face of it, and he's like eccentric or whatever else. But people may say, big deal, doesn't mean I'll be rug pulled. Second part is, active community that may cut you down. Doesn't mean I'll be rug pulled. Doesn't mean it's a scam. So, like, what is it about this? Like Bitcoiners or anybody else say is a rug pull could leave everyday working people with nothing in their pockets. Like, technically, what is it about Hex that's made its way into the minds of the crypto community, as Tom said, as the scam or whatever people say? What is it about technically that could it be rug pulled by Richard? That was my understanding from the doco that he could. But Tom, is that right, Tom? Or guys,
Yeah, I mean,
what
it
do you
orbits
think?
around the question of the function of the so-called OA, the origin address.
Right.
And
Yeah.
this is, again, not the only project guilty of such things. As you would have learnt from the doco, there
Yeah.
is a spectrum of decentralization that I discovered along the journey. And I think a lot of people in crypto and coming into crypto don't really realize they see it as either on or off, right? Black or white. And
Correct.
most of the risk associated with any investments in crypto is around how well you understand the function of the origin address, and are you able to do any coin sort of analysis, chain analysis on that smart contract? Do you have the intellectual capacity to do that? And luckily today, there are a lot more tools available to people should they have the time and interest to look deeper. There's a lot more tools available than there were back in even 2018, 2019. So, I mean, of course, people trade on emotion, but Hex, again, well, the Hexicans at least claim that they are anti-trading, and the whole thing's geared towards locking up. But, I mean, everybody knows that the fucking Hex needs to move hands, right? You need to bring newcomers in. And this is where the Ponzi story comes in as well, right? The method in which Richard airdropped the initial coins and the initial chain analysis that was done by a fella, I'm sorry, I forget his name now, but he did a deep dive. There's a YouTube video out there. He basically inflated the numbers. This was touched upon in the doco as well, where essentially if you go to Etherscan, you'll see, okay, there's like at that time it was like 250,000 holders of Hex, but this was how he used the metrics to increase the Hex, the appearance that Hex was, a bloody good coin, because it was, at that time, it was in like third or fourth place, just under Ethereum on Etherscan. He'd figured
Right.
out how to game the metrics. And that's what pissed a lot of Bitcoiners off, I think, personally, because they realize, okay, this cunt's come in here and he's fudging the numbers and Etherscan's just reporting straight from the doing it's a block explorer at the end of the day. It's just doing what it does, and he's managed to rank at 4th place. I mean, that would piss a lot of people off, considering how hard they've had to work with the trading volumes and all that shit to push the number up. So
Yeah.
I think there's that's highlighted in the doco as well. In the second episode, when I go to that Decentral conference, there's a guy called what was his name from the Secret Network now? Not Gertzel, Wurtzel, something Wurtzel. He puts it very concisely.
What was his point? Yeah.
And his main point was, we're not educating on the risks of centralization. So we need to figure out, or the industry needs to figure out, a very simple way to determine the level of centralization of a project before somebody, gets invested. Some very, very basic tool suites that we could use.
I think that was the guy that was talking about like decentralized in name only. Like that there's
dinos.
There's dinos. There's no real definition. There's no real specific way to understand currently whether something is centralized or decentralized.
Not a quick way. No.
And Eric later was just like, unless you can read code, it's very difficult, which I thought was very enlightening as well.
Exactly. You still have these third parties that you have to sort of navigate or trust to be able to build a decent understanding or quality portfolio, I guess, that you can long term be satisfied with. But that's the real crux of I think that's the real takeaway from the doco, actually, to be honest. And it's highlighted within the first 5 minutes when I meet Bitman 360 in Cryptopia. He puts me right when just before he introduces me to Hexicans City, which is a pretty ugly place, but the people were nice enough.
So that was like a real moment. Like he brought you there, and you were just recording that whole experience. That's what was happening.
Well, I assume you haven't seen the Fakefluencer, because
I did see that.
End of the Fakefluencer actually continues on into the Hex doco, so they actually should be viewed in that order. But yeah, I was already on location from the Fakefluencer investigation, and that's when I met Bitman in person.
Nice. I love that bit. That there was like the one part made me laugh so much. Like the Timo guy, I didn't catch it the first time I watched it, and the second time when it was like, so why would people want to stay in here? And like, in the Timo guy's like, I think I'll stay here with the sheeple. I don't even like it here. Just like, and he just sort of he just like said it in his like little weird Indian voice.
Timo, Timo. No, he's Spanish. He's a Spanish fella.
Yeah.
He's quite a character. Yeah, I was wondering where you guys met as well. There was a few characters from that doco, not to give too much away. People need to go and watch it. But there was one guy that stood out I think it was at the decentralized conference, and he was the guy that was like the motivational guy, and he was like very jumpy about and excitable. And
the BitConnect dude,
Carlos Matos.
Might have been, yeah. He was like decentralized,
Yeah, he had a lot of energy, that fella.
Yeah, that dude did, like, and then like some of his answers were still like about, making money, and what if it's centralized, or what would you, bugger over people if you just could make money. And I can't remember specifically his answer, but I was all into him, and then he said that, and I was like,
no, he's a bit of a legend in the crypto world, eh?
Is he? And then
he's the guy that's like BitConnect, and he just yelled, and then it turned out to be a scam, and then classically he's over like in HEX, right. Which actually, something that I was curious about, just when you were in Hexco or whatever, it's okay. Okay, that day you were there, it seemed like there was some sort of like conference thing, but my curiosity was like, do people really go there on the daily, or like people just like hanging out there in this metaverse on the regular, or is it just like a specific event or a specific thing that is bringing, or people really actually in Hexico spending their time?
I mean, there are ceremonies that they have there on the daily. There is people that are always sort of tuned in and online, ready to rock and roll. I mean, Batman DJs from there. I think every evening, Aussie time. There's definitely an engaged community, but they're not. It's not a large community because obviously you have to put the fucking headset on, which is terribly uncomfortable. Nobody would want to wear those every day.
Like what is your gauge of like the true, like having done the investigation, what do you think are like, even just vague accurate numbers, like how many Hexicans are there, how many hex people are there even?
Right, okay. Yeah, no, well, I can give you some pretty concrete numbers there because obviously I spent like a year and a half of them fellas. There's basically about couple of hundred that are obviously like whales because they're just solidly engaged and they're almost to a level that they're considered influencers, I guess. So I'd say a couple of hundred that are hardcore engaged, and then a couple of thousand, maybe 2,000 or 3,000 that are on the weekly, and then after that it just peters off into obscurity. To be honest, I'd imagine the entire Hexican community can't be bigger than 30,000, with just a couple of thousand actually
that are like hardcore.
Yeah,
more
I mean,
hardcore at least.
for example, they have this Twitter space that they've been maintaining for over a year and a half, non-stop. I don't know if you've ever been in there, but I've popped in a few times, and they hand it off. So they start in Australia in the morning, and then they hand it off to Europe and then to the US throughout the day. So it's just constantly going 24/7. And they've been going for over a year and a half, apparently, non-stop.
What makes these Hexicans, this community, like as Luke alluded to at the a while ago, like they're just different. What makes them more maximalist, more toxic than any other crypto community? But people have a lot of opinions about the Bitcoin toxic
it
maxi
boils
community.
down to the staking schedule, right? So everybody is incentivized to stake longer. They have a meme thing, 5555, which is basically asking people to stake for 15 years. Is like so there is this built-in mechanism where everyone's encouraged to stick around for as long as possible, right?
Is that not problematic, guys? What do you think? I mean, that kind of sounds like that Richard Hart OA address is one thing. Like the staking for that long, like what do you guys think about that?
That's sort of the model for Ponzi schemes. They incentivize holding your money in there longer. It just that's what it seems like to me.
Yeah, that was my thoughts, but
For sure.
people have different opinions.
Well, the thing is, like, I guess it's okay to incentivize people to keep it in longer, but I mean, I'm looking at the Hex website right now, and on the front page, it says Hex stakes average 38% returns a year. Like, this is unrealistic, and we talked about before, is it or is it not a scam? If they're offering 38% returns a year, I'm calling it a scam, straight up. And the crypto community needs to do that. I talked about this in the FTX episode. Like, the crypto community needs to be smarter than letting this bullshit slide. Like, 38% returns a year, how are you generating that revenue? You don't. There's no way to do that. This is clearly a scam, and the Ponzi schemes in crypto have the added advantage of not having to pay out in a US dollar or a fiat currency. They pay out in their own coin, so they can just dilute and print their own coin to pay out your profits in heavily inverted commas.
Yeah, and this actually brings up a good point because at the beginning of my investigation, the Hexicans were extremely welcoming to my investigation because I believe they wanted to turn it into a marketing opportunity. sort of turned me into a useful idiot or a vehicle for advertising HEX. And that's been a really interesting, tricky aspect to this project to navigate, because obviously I need to maintain my integrity as an investigative journalist without, basically losing any sort of potentially interesting angles to this investigation. There's no. I mean, in the film, in the documentary itself, you'll see I tried the product, and I staked for 1 year, which is how long it took me to do the investigation, basically. And I came away, I think it was about 98% down over that period. So I literally got in at the very, very top.
I mean, Pudding, what do you think? It looks pretty adamant there that he thinks it's a Ponzi. I mean, what was your takeaway? I mean, me and you, Pudding, when we were talking about this a couple of weeks back, there was one guy who was interviewed near the end. I can't remember his name.
Eric
Tom, he
Wall.
sits up. Eric Walp or something. What
Wall.
was it?
Eric Wall, I believe you're talking about.
Well, and he I seem to connect with him. He seemed like. What do you think? What was your takeaway from him? Because he kind of summed it up, sort of. Yeah.
Well, like, when I hear, even I ask that question, and it kind of like answers another piece when I ask the question about how many actual Hexicans there are, and you're saying it's like probably 2,000 strong. What that immediately makes me think is like, oh, okay, so basically you just have like a collective of squeaky wheels. So it's just like a whole bunch of like a small little group of like loud people. It's like somehow attracting people who are flamboyant and loud, but the actual community isn't that terribly big, which is what I was trying to get a gauge on. Because I was like, if there is an actual big community, well, then just the fact that there is a large community, maybe it could, like, the scam rug pull reality could be lessened. But to hear there's 2,000, maybe 30,000 investors, that sounds like rug pull central.
Right. So what you're saying there is, correct me if I'm wrong, but because there's a smaller community of Hexicans, these are just folks who are, let them be passionate, let them tie their money up for 15 years, and let them take these massive risks. Of Richard, rug pulling, or let them lock up, and if they ever change their mind about getting outside. But the smaller the community and the less small time everyday people getting in with this or that, the effect is less. Okay, maybe a Ponzi, some people may think it is, but if it's only those folks, then they're in on it. They're full on in with it. So,
well, if there's enough people, it's a little more insulated. If it's a very small amount of people, it's very easy to just like to switch it around. And right now they're trying to bring more people in. They've got this whole Pulse chain and the Pulse X, and they're like, again, Richard Hart probably being incredibly smart and wise as far he sees the cycles. And so like he's making a big push right now for all of this new things, trying to generate all this new buzz, pull that many more people to like make the whole cycle, like ride up the cycle one more, milk a whole bunch more money, bring more people into the community. That's what it looks like to me.
Tom, what do you think about that? What do you think about the whole 15 years? And what happens if you want to pull out? And is there a case there to be made that it's just a smaller group of avid folks, and that lessens the the scamminess of it or something? But what about Pudding? What Pudding just said, like he's now they're trying to get more people in now. Does that make it more scammy? Or like, what's your thoughts on all this?
Yeah, I still stand by my final denouement in the 4th episode of the miniseries, which I'm not going to repeat here, but I think that's a pretty solid conclusion, and I can summarize at least with one of the words that I invented for that denouement, which is scamfrastructure. And essentially what I mean when I came up with that word was there are many ways for a smart contract to be hijacked by certain parts of the community, okay? There's this constant sort of inaccurate description of a crypto community gather around a coin or a token, and it's not right, because the community is never, complete and united. what you tend to see is a number of factions. And obviously this starts to gear your mind towards the pyramid, okay, where there are different segments of communities that have certain roles and responsibilities. And sometimes those different segments get switched out or hijacked by other third parties. And that's what I think can actually give any smart contract hex included this scam, this rug pull outcome. Whether or not it was intended from the beginning is another question, but it's a little bit more. I mean, at the end of the day, people are going to people, and in blockchain, people have this immensely powerful suite of tools at hand, and they'll do what they want to do, and that's why it's so important to understand some of these chain analysis tools that are coming onto the market these days, because if individuals coming in space really want to get a grip on things, they really need to understand how to see, and everybody can see this because it's all on chain. It's just looking at the behavior and the velocity of the token, the momentum, where it's going, how it's distributed, etc. All these different aspects will give you further insight onto the risk of a rug. But at the end of the day, people are gonna people, mate. And
People are
they're
gonna
gonna
people.
people, right? Regardless of the technology. This all blockchain does, and all these fucking smart contracts do, is just speed up. They just speed it all up. It's this hyper capitalism in your pocket. And whether or not you have this benevolent dictator at the helm that does live streams that last 8 hours or whatever, like Richard, is kind of irrelevant. It's almost a distraction to a certain extent.
Luke, what do you think about all this? Do you see like other this blockchain? This is, I mean, you're such a skeptic of crypto nowadays anyway, aren't you? And this is what we want to dive into in this pod, like this speculative aspect, this like, money in your pocket, and it's a problem with crypto anyway. And is it, what is decentralization for you, Luke? And what are you seeing in Hex that's different from Bitcoin or any of these other cryptos? And what would you warn against?
I would warn against any staking coin. I am very skeptical of the staking in crypto. This is like financial alchemy, producing profits where none are made. So anything that offers you a yield, I'm against. That's why I do like Bitcoin. I guess there's no yield, no one trying to make money out of you that way. That was the thing that attracted me to Hex originally. Like just looking at that start page, 38% returns. Well, Luna was offering 20%. These guys are offering double that. As far as the rug pull goes, I just want to say you don't necessarily have to rug pull. In a traditional Ponzi scheme, I guess at some point when it fails, you're pulling the rug. But with a crypto Ponzi scheme where you're actually paying people out in your own crypto that you can print at will, then you don't need to rug pull. You can just keep giving them these worthless coins that you print. This is what's happening with a lot of these yielding shit coins, is that they're not rug pulling. You just look at their price fall faster than the rest of the market. I think Avalanche has been one that's been doing that for the last year, which I've been watching. They offer unrealistic returns and everyone loves them. They pay out in their own coin though. They're not going anywhere. They don't have to. They can just keep giving you their own coin that they mine, that they've pre-mined, or that they can just create out of thin air. This is something in Hex that is an extremely big red flag, and in the general community too. I can't say enough that yielding coins are a real issue, and we in the crypto community need to stamp that shit out, because it's just too scammy, and it keeps other people from coming in. And at the moment, you're seeing a lot of SEC crackdowns, and I think Hex is actually being cracked down on at the moment. They're calling them securities, and there's a lot of regulations involved in issuing securities,
Yeah.
and for the most part,
Yeah, no, and that
the
sorry, go on, mate.
yeah, go.
Yeah,
Oh,
finish off
just
what you're saying,
saying,
Luke. Yeah.
yeah, for the most part, these people have been skirting the SEC and the financial regulation just because it's a crypto. But now it's not going to be that way. And if we see more of these scams get pulled up by the SEC, it just gives the normies a bad taste in their mouth.
Yeah, and I think you touched on two interesting elements there. There's these proof of stake. Obviously, Ether recently moved from proof of work to proof of stake, and I think that's going to obviously lead to more centralization over time, which I assume is going to be bad for the broader community. But I mean, in terms of what they would rather happen, and that'll probably create more Bitcoin maxis over the long term as well, I'd imagine. But when it comes to the SEC, I think that conversation was going on almost the entire time that I spent with the Hexicans, and my Cameo account even got subpoenaed by the SEC because
Oh wow!
because I had a bunch of requests
Wow.
from Hexicans to talk about the project, and I think you'll see that in the doco as well. But so the Cameo account was subpoenaed along with all these other Hexican influences and what have you, but that all petered out, and I think the reasoning for that and the same will come with other projects as well is orbiting around the idea of the origin address again, the OA, because it's going to be extremely difficult if the SEC or the people that are tasked with investigating such projects are not able to do detailed chain analysis. They will not be able to decipher. I mean, if you realize there's like a variety of tumblers, these tumbler tools that people use to obfuscate transactions as well. It gets extremely complex and near on impossible to realize who the genuine owner of the origin address is, or owners, right? And I don't see any way to get around that actually going forward, especially considering it's an international affair. It's kind of decentralized by nature. So I think the SEC will need to bring into existence an entirely new organization of sorts to tackle this. And I think they're going to have a fucking uphill battle, mate.
So let's sort of move this along to the lessons learned maybe, and what's next for you Tom, and how we carry on these themes. What's the takeaway from all this in terms of maybe a deeper question, decentralization? You explored that theme throughout the doco. That was like really interesting. People check out the doco will find that a really stimulating debate. What are the sort of core questions around decentralization and cryptocurrency and blockchain, and how are you thinking about that for your next project, and how that's influencing you, Tom?
Well, I've gathered a very detailed insight on what it is crypto people want outside of getting rich quick, right? So if you go back to the core value proposition
Yeah.
of blockchain technology, it all stems from decentralization. Without that, none of the other propositions seem to fall into place. And so, off of the good words of the people that I interviewed, I've started putting it together. I refuse to call it a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization, because I think those types of organizations are stuck in the realm of ideology. They can't actually practically function over time. Maybe over a short period, like a pop-up DAO might work, but I think a long-term DAO is in the realm of fantasy actually at the moment. And that's again because people are going to people, right? So there's a number of ways that it can fuck up. But that said, I've started putting together a collective which has some decentralized aspects to it, and you can find it at the bitjoinery.com. And basically, what I'm doing there is I'm crowdsourcing talent, so investigatory talent, researchers, writers, people that can bring together all the assets that it takes to create another documentary, whilst at the same time growing a treasury, which is essentially a crowdfunding mechanism to complement the DAO. And that's being done through NFTs that are associated with content from the HEX doco. So I know, for example, there's a bit of demand for the full interviews, like the full uncut interviews, of which there's some 30 plus hours from that doco. And so I've set up an NFT where, if we reach certain thresholds, if enough people mint them, then I drop the full uncut interview to those people. And that's a kind of a way to fill the treasury for the collectives, and also, release this additional content of which I know for a fact there's some demand. So it's a type of way to give the people what they want, and also, prep for the next investigation. And that's working out slowly but surely. There's no rush. I'm not in a hurry to do another crypto scamdemic investigation, to be honest, purely because, like I said to you earlier on, it's an intensive process. You basically sleep, eat, and breathe the project, because that's, you got the classic image of the detective sitting in his car outside the guy's house. He's lost his wife, he's an alcoholic, all those stereotypical stuffs. Those actually are quite accurate.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really interesting what you're doing, and yeah, there's so many, I suppose, different options about which way you could go. I think this running theme of decentralization really is interesting. What would be your takeaways? What would you like to see next? What do you think of this running theme of decentralization, and how like that could run into Tom's next doco, and what do you think people are going to want to see?
Well, I definitely, just from my own watching experience, it does not surprise me that there is an interest for the full interviews, because the bits that I enjoyed the most were the informational aspects. I really liked the discussions with Eric Wall. There was another guy in there that seemed really well informed, and I liked what he was saying about just decentralization in general. Those were the bits that really stood out for me. I loved the comedic element as well, because that it's kind of runs along in the vein that I like to present information, to get some humor in there. But so yeah, I mean, I would love to see more. I feel like there's a real vehicle for exploring the bullshit in crypto. So, I mean, obviously I get why you wouldn't want to go right back into another one, but hopefully someday you do for all of our sakes.
Appreciate it,
absolutely. And I'm intrigued to see the next one, whether you're following another crypto coin,
No,
or just a
yeah,
general
I want to go
theme,
big for the
or
next one. I'm thinking CBDCs would be a great investigation.
yeah. Oh, I saw that one as an option. I
But
love that. Yeah. We
that's a
did an
mega
episode on that.
project, I
Yeah.
think, because obviously there's a lot of countries around the world trying it out, trying different things out. So
That's maybe the darkest thing in crypto. Oh my
fucking
god! So
right.
yeah, that would be interesting. Yeah, that's like probably a 3 year project there of
Well, it
just
depends on the
I
collective.
don't know, man. You're gonna be depressed for
You
3 years.
never know, mate. It
Yeah,
might come around quicker. But there are a number of countries that have been playing with this idea for years now. Sweden, for example. In Sweden, they've had the e-krona experiment going for at least 5 or 6 years, eh?
yeah. It's all gathering speed. I think we come back in a year's time, or 2 years time. The full like Orwellian experience will be here. It's very scary. So folks listening, like I think we'll wrap it up there. Really interesting documentary. Go and check it out on the bitjoinery.com. Is that right, Tom?
Yeah, you can mint a copy actually. Yeah, that's right.
You can mint a copy. You can check out these new interviews that are coming out via NFTs. Some really interesting questions around HEX. We've had some of those sort of points today, diverging opinions. It's all complicated. It's not just HEX. Is it just HEX? Go and find out for yourself. Come to your conclusions. But I think it's worthwhile just diving into some of this to ask those kind of questions and be aware and know about this stuff and ask the deeper questions like how different is this from other staking coins or this or that, or what is decentralization and how do we navigate these kind of issues. Go on. You've listened to some of what we've said here. We've brought some of those points up. Go and find out for yourself. Watch the doco and follow Tom's work for more of this kind of dark stuff to
Yeah, and if
come.
I might ask, if I might add, a simple question that one can ask themselves when looking at these crypto projects is who wins and who loses by which mechanisms of power. Now, the smart fellas in the room will recognise that quote, and maybe the less smart people will have to Google it, but I think that's a really useful
now.
I'll have to
question.
Google it. Anyone recognize that one? Luke?
I don't recognize it, but I like it.
It's
I like it, yeah.
Foucault.
Oh,
Oh, I'm
Foucault.
not a yeah.
Oh, that dude.
The
Oh, right.
Frenchies, yeah, not my thing.
The postmodernist Frenchies. Well, it's a good quote nonetheless. Yeah, who's winning
Yeah, it
and
makes
who's
sense,
losing,
mate.
and by what mechanisms of
Oh, you've
power?
dropped out.
Oh, isn't that central to the whole crypto question? Guys, let's leave it there. Any last comments from you guys? Like any lessons, any sort of summary points before we end it there? But
I've
yeah, really
actually
interesting
experienced a
discussion.
very new scam that's running that I'd like to quickly just tell people
Oh,
about. So
yeah.
what happens is you get a message and it's got the 12 words, the 12 words that are usually associated with a wallet. And it says something like, can you, regardless, the message is different every time. Anyway, you get given these 12 words. And what happens is you go and punch them in and you're like, oh, sweet, let's check the balance. So you check the balance and you see, okay, there's a couple of grand sitting there and I've got the 12 words, so I feel like I have access now. So what do you want to do? You want to transfer that couple of grand into your own wallet, right? And at that point, what happens is you cover the gas fee, but the coins don't move into your wallet and the gas fees go straight to the scammer's wallet. So what happens, and I was watching this in real time. This was a couple of months back now, and I was watching hundreds of transactions happening in real time of people covering gas fees to try and move this crypto out of this wallet into their own wallet. Are you guys familiar with that scam? Does it have a name?
I haven't heard of that one, no.
No, I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, because it seems like a no-brainer, right? It's like, oh, it's only going to cost me a couple of quid, couple of bucks to move this, so I might as well give it a try. And that's what happens. But hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of people are doing it all day long. The scammer's just sitting there loading up. Someone should give that a name. I wouldn't know how to Google that, though. That's the freshest one I've come
Yeah, I'm
across.
not one I'm familiar with. Yeah. Well, maybe we can look into that one for future episodes, guys. I haven't heard of that one. Kind of one of you guys.
I
Yeah,
think a
I'm
lot of the scams in crypto you can avoid them just with the knowledge that there is no such thing as money for nothing. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, but
Yeah.
all of these scams, they promise you money
a
for
lot of
nothing.
young you
Like,
got to
hey,
realize
just type in these 12
there's
words and you got it.
a lot of young fellas out there who see this as a no risk, effort. So It's an easy one to get sucked up into. There's also a lot of fucking fake airdrop websites out there. Did you see was it the Mercedes one or the Porsche one recently as well? Very big on Reddit.
No, I
Didn't
missed
see
that
that
one.
I'll
one.
have to
No,
see that.
Porsche
missed that one.
NFTs.
Yeah, what was that?
So yeah, just be careful where you connect your MetaMask wallet, basically, or observe.
There's so much out there there's so much out there that we're going to have to dive into, and I'm glad we have you in our media collective at Blockchain Solidarity to sort of keep us up to date with all these kind of different ones. It's just so many different
Then
ways
there's new ones all the
that people
time,
can get
mate.
scammed
There's
into
new
things.
ones all the time. I've got endless supply.
Yeah,
Endless
it's sort of
supply.
endless. We'll keep dropping them in. We'll keep exploring them. Let's
I'd call
wrap it up
that.
there because
Yeah, go for it.
yeah. No, go ahead.
I got trapped into thinking of the name. Like somebody's got to name that one. I was just like, oh, the gas leak scam, or the like. I was like, just trying to think of
Yeah,
like
the media
the
like to
leaker.
give names to stuff. I saw this. You guys did an episode, the pig butcher. I was like, what the fuck is the pig butcher?
One of the last ones we did.
Can we not get a more accurate name? This is too exotic.
Yeah, gas leak gate was the one I was thinking of there. there's just
Yeah, but I
endless
don't
ones.
know
It's
if
just
giving them
endless. Like
names,
and
actually obscure names, is useful, to be honest. That's typical
no,
media spiel,
okay,
right?
yeah,
But
yeah. Um, let's let's wrap it up there because I'm conscious that my Wi-Fi is falling out here. So yeah, let's have you back on, Tom, in a few months again as you sort of through the collective decide on what's next, and yeah, we'd love to get you back on for just a chat like this kind of thing of scams that are out there, this, that, and the other that we can sort of learn from and look out for.
yeah, and you guys are more than welcome to mint a non-fungible mate anytime and join the collective, because we need good
Yeah.
people like you.
We are, I think so. I'm in there already, guys. If you want to join, I think we're all on the same page. If you watch Tom's doco about like what decentralization is and how to bring out these themes, let's end it there. Yeah, thanks, guys, for joining. Tom, really happy to have you here to talk about this. Everyone listening, go and watch Tom's doco and form your own conclusions about HEX and decentralization. It's an open question. And as Tom said at the beginning, decentralization is a spectrum. Everyone has an opinion on it, but we have to sort of follow its pathway and get away from centralization. So yeah, let's end it there, guys. Thanks very much for joining, and yeah, we'll look forward to the next episode of Crypto Dark Pod in a couple of weeks. Thanks everyone for joining. Tom, good luck, and
Thanks,
we'll talk
mate.
Great.
Thanks,
Nice
guys.
talking with you, Tom.
Appreciate it.
Cheers, guys.
soon. Thanks, guys. Cheers.